Hello, everyone. Uncle Rob is back with you. Uncle Rhino is off the road. He is in the studios in Shreveport, Louisiana. How you doing, Rhino?
Hanging in. Good to be home.
Oh, yeah. You ready for this interview today?
Oh, been ready.
Got this one set up, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks, a month ago. Got to talk to this gentleman on the phone for quite a while. I think this guy's got a lot of interesting things he could share with us. A lot of folks are going to remember him from his biggest hit, made it number 8 back in 19, or number 6 back in 1978. Great song, Magnet and Steel. Mr. Walter Egan, how's it going, man?
Hey, all right. Nice to be here with you, Rob and Uncle Rhino. Happy
Yes, sir.
that you're having me on here today.
Absolutely, man. We want to hear your story. We want to, this is what we do with the folks who have been there and know what it's like to be an icon. And I definitely consider you an icon. For God's sakes, you got a song. The big song you did it's been redone by Keith Urban, and he's making it his own. But at the same time, he's not losing that feel of what you originally put out.
That's true. I heard it and I was very pleased, very happy that old Keith was very faithful to the original arrangement. In fact, he got Little Big Town to back him up to the background vocals because there's definite, call and response in Magnet and Steel between the background vocals and the lead vocal. And a few years back, I think there was a show called Crossroads on CMT where, they would get a rock artist and a country artist together and they would kind of jam out on things. And
I love that
Big
show.
Town did one with Lindsey Buckingham. So I think that the connection there is a very good one. And they certainly were true to the background vocals. My background vocals on Magnet and Steel are, well, Stevie has the high part, Lindsay has the middle part, and Annie McClune, who was the lead singer for my band Sageworth for many years, and she was on my during my touring years when my albums were on vinyl. Annie McClune was the third voice on there. So I don't know. I know Little Big Town has 4 voices. I haven't quite picked out what the fourth voice is doing yet, but yeah, it was really good, and he plays my guitar solo note for note, which I was very pleased with. I like that Keith was faithful to that. And then, yeah, and, his tag goes longer than mine on my record. And but that was the way we used to play it live with my touring band. So yeah, I couldn't be more happy with his arrangement of it. And of course, that he just chose it. I've been doing these shows with the band Ambrosia for the last few years, and they are a great band. Their show has me and like John Ford Coley, Peter Beckett, the voice of Player, and Elliot Lurie from Looking Glass. We join them, and we each do maybe 3-4 songs of our own with Ambrosia backing us up. So it's a pretty wonderful arrangement. And I like to call myself the barnacle on the yacht of rock, because I think most of my songs are more rock than they are yacht. But I'm happy to be along for the ride. Those other guys, their songs, my songs are like 3-chord songs. I'm a rock and roller, and most of their songs have like strange chords in my world. So
I would love to be in that room when you and those 3 guys are doing y'all thing. I'd love to be in that room, man. There's a lot of nostalgia, but a lot of history. What do you think, Rhino? Yeah?
Yeah. Hey, you can be in the room with us. We're going to be playing on July 3rd at a casino in Florence, Indiana. I forget what it's called.
Hey, Walt, you got to give a shout out right now to John Ford. We've been talking. We got to lock him in. So you need to right now. It's a great time to holler at him and say, John, come on.
Yeah, I'll get him on there for you. I'll be seeing him in a couple of weeks. Yeah. He and I actually both live here south of Nashville in a place called Franklin, which used to be a nice sleepy little town. till the rest of the world discovered it and decided to move here.
My the person that really helped me, the established professional in Nashville that really helped me, I'd become tremendous friends with Brian Mayer, and Brian and I were writing together, and his dad, Brent Mayer, who was producing the Judds and Kenny Rogers and all
Yeah.
that. The Janelle and Brent allowed me to come in and use the little 4-track in their house there in Franklin, and Brian ran the little mixer, and I laid down guitar vocals, and that's how I got my very first publishing deal with Don Schlitz, was doing that.
Oh
Uh,
man, that's great.
because of him. So
Yeah,
yeah,
Don Schlitz, what a great guy he was. It's sad
yes
that he
sir,
passed away recently. I did a
yes.
show with him at the Ryman about 2 or 3 months ago. Yeah, that yeah, some great people here. And there's a lot of out of towners now in Franklin. So I don't know. I don't know where to go now, but I've been here almost 30 years.
That's what I was going to ask you. Are you from Nashville, or did you uproot and go to Nashville? Where are you originally from?
Believe it or not, I'm from Queens, New York.
Wow, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, I was born on the same block as well. Let's see, Leslie West is from my town. Um, Paul Simon, Forest Hills, New York is where I'm from originally, and then I went to school in D.C. and that my band was doing well there, and we decided that we had to go somewhere else to make it big. We had an offer from a guy in California, but he wanted our publishing, and so we decided that wasn't going to be a good move, and we moved to Boston, got pretty close to a deal up there, but then we broke up. And at that same time, my first breakthrough in the music world was a song called Hearts on Fire, which I wrote with a friend of mine called Tom Geiderer. And it was recorded by Graham Parsons and Emmylou Harris on the
Hmm.
Grievous Angel album, which was the last one he did before he moved on to another plane of existence. Good old Graham. So yeah, that was the beginning for me. And then I followed that to California, and I moved to California in '74. Wound up getting a record deal offered to me in '76 after playing a hoot night at the Troubadour. And yeah, it's the same with the classic story of
Classic
driving my
story.
van out to L.A. with a mattress in the back, and
Yes.
and then
It paid off.
yeah, well, my fortunate, I was fortunate because I had done demos at this funky studio called Sound City in Van Nuys, and when it came time to find a producer, my engineer said, "Well, why don't you ask Buckingham Nicks?" And I was like, "Who is that? A guy? Who is Buckingham Nicks? What?" And they said, "No, no, listen to this." And they played me the Buckingham Nicks album, and it was like, "Oh yeah, I like that. It's pretty cool. A little overproduced maybe, but I liked the idea behind it." So yeah, and we approached them, and Stevie and Lindsay were up for keeping their Buckingham Nicks brand alive outside of Fleetwood Mac. They'd only been in Fleetwood Mac for about a year and a half at that point. So I met them as they were recording Rumors, really. The first time I encountered Lindsay in a studio, he was doing the harmonics on that song Secondhand News.
Mm.
That so yeah, all of a sudden I was plunged into this crazy world and at the time it was just like, well, yeah, these are just people like me, you and me. They weren't yet icons. Stevie was just another female vocalist,
Look at her today, man.
Well, crazy. Who knew?
My wife is 56 years old, and she's got a Stevie Nicks t-shirt that she wears at least twice a week. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm like, she loves her some Stevie Nicks.
Stevie touches a lot of people, so to speak. But the thing is, all generations. I mean, my daughter, well, she just turned 30, but she knows all about Stevie. And of course, people my age. Stevie and I are the same age. She's a month older than I am. So, you know, it's crazy that that she has become such an icon, and deservedly so. I mean, she has a real gift of writing from her heart, and her voice has a way of touching people. You know.
So tell us about Magnet and Steel. Where did that come from? Did it just,
Yeah.
is it one of those deals you woke up at 2 in the morning and you wrote it, and took you 7 minutes? I mean,
Yeah, pretty
tell us
much, but
about.
not exactly. I as I think we were talking about off camera before, you know, I grew up in the 50s, and so my original love of music comes from 50s rock and roll, and comes from the doo-wop and the vocal groups of the 50s. And so I had been working on a song. I got a guitar when I was 15, and by the time I was 16, I was writing songs. I was bored when I was trying to do scales and stuff. It was like I learned some chords, and then I started writing songs. So with that, you know, I just kept doing it. I had a friend in high school who also was starting to write songs at that time. And so we had each other to bounce our songs off of. And so I was like, yeah, your song's great, John. How about mine? Yeah, what? Yeah. And we were in a band called the Malibus, which was a surf band in New York City.
That
And they,
name sounds familiar.
well, yeah, well, John has done well to maintain the presence of the Malibus. Malibooz is the way we spelled it. And, you know, we were a surf band in New York City in the 60s. And,
Why
you
not?
know, yeah, you know, against the grain. You go against the grain with these things sometimes.
Do what
Innovation,
you're
man.
not doing. Do what nobody else is doing where you're at.
That's
Do
the
what
way to do it, you
nobody
know.
else does.
You see what the
Yeah.
rule is and you break it, you know. That's the trick. So anyway, yeah, so okay, so Stevie, all right. I had this record deal offered to me from United Artists in UK, in Britain, for for three singles, which meant six songs. They wanted me to have six songs to deliver. So we got Stevie and Lindsay to produce, and we did those six songs. One of the six songs was a song called "The Tunnel of Love," not "Tunnel of Love," "Tunnel O Love," and you know, it was the most visceral of songs that I wrote. You know, it's like, you know, it's so stimulating between your thighs. You know, not very subtle. We'll put it that way.
A lot of
So
younger folks won't understand the fact that you had three singles, but you needed six songs. There's an A and B. This
yeah, right.
back in the day, they had records. Younger folks, I mean, it's not like going on Spotify or buying your stuff. So that's
Yeah,
why he had six. Anyway,
that's right. We had side A and side B for those singles. And you know, and that was an interesting phenomenon of the record business, because if your A side sold 1 million copies, then so did your B side, even though nobody knew what it was. So you know, it was a curious phenomenon. So anyway, so I was recording these six songs that I had written. I've been writing songs, as I said, since I was 16. And this Tunnel of Love song, Stevie took an interest in doing her wailing background vocals, the way that she that way she does her voice. That ululation is the actually the big term for that, what she does.
and
But
who's to
yeah,
tell her no?
yeah. And so we had been working at Sound City, and Lindsay was like, okay, well, that's about it for the night. And Stevie said, no, I want to do my vocal on this song now. And I said, don't worry, I'll take her home. I'll drive Stevie home. You don't have to worry about it. See you later, Lindsay. Yeah, you know, of
Wink,
course.
wink.
Yeah, well, no, she was quite an alluring person to me. Anyway, yes, which of course is the reason I wound up writing the song. But she did that background vocal way into the morning in the completely darkened Studio A, this big studio, little candle, some, you know, psychic stimulation from various things. And she just pulled it off. It was just an amazing performance in my mind. And so I drove her home that night, full of, oh my God, who am I with here? This woman is great. Got on the freeway to go out to Pomona, which is where I was living at the time. And the car pulled in front of me. It was this lowrider candy apple red, or I think it had, metal flake paint, diamond window in the back. It was, what they called a pimp mobile in those days.
Brian's got a couple of those.
Lights under the car, and it's cruising along in front of me at 4:30 in the morning as it's just starting to get light. And I've noticed that the license plate said "not shy." I was like, "Oh, here's an interesting message from the universe. I think I'll take that." So I had been working on a song that harkened back to the doo-wop kind of era, that what they call a stroll. The stroll beat was it's called, well, it's 6/8 if you're a musician. It's like boom 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 pop boom boom pop pop boom boom pop boom boom. Had that double snare hit. And so I had been working with that, but the lyrics just weren't coming. I had lyrics that I just didn't like. And so I started to fit in the "not shy" into my work on that song. And by the time I got home, I sat down and it took about a half an hour to write the lyrics to it. You are a woman who's lost to her song. I knew that, the situation, they were still loving and hating one another, Lindsay and Stevie at this point. And I was kind of trying to get in the middle of it. And it was like, yeah, no, this isn't going to work, but I can't help it. So that's kind of the feeling behind, writing that song. And and that kind of is how it came out. It was kind of the odd song out, I guess, on my second album, because most of them were more rocky and more, tradition, of that era rock and roll, not the throwback kind of thing. But when we got in there to record it, Stevie and Lindsay really got into it, and they came up with that background part and the back and forth of the lead vocal. So that's the way it came about. And when we finished recording "Not Shy," the album, it was the song that everybody at Columbia Records, when they listened to the album, went, "Well, yeah, we got to put that one out as the single." Came out in March of '78, and it took until basically September to get to the top of the charts as far as getting into the top 10. It lost its bullet a couple of times, but Columbia believed in it, and they, the wonderful thing about Columbia is that it was huge as a record label. It had it was the big machine, as we used to call it. And I was their favorite boy in that year. So they were behind me, lock, stock, and barrel, and we got it all the way. But by the time that the summer was on, those stations that had played Magnet and Steel March, April, May, June, and made it the hit that it really became, they were already on the song "Hot Summer Nights," which was, everybody knew, was going to be the follow-up. But Columbia wouldn't put it out until it was almost November by the time "Hot Summer Nights" was released by them. So, it was frustrating for us to try and get that through. Are you okay there, Rhino?
I am. I had the sneezes, and I wasn't going to mess up a good story with the sneezing in the back.
Okay.
So
I think it was like I swallowed Mount St. Helens, but yeah. Woo, yeah.
Wow.
So I'm trying to figure this out. Why did they wait? Did they want to get everything they could out of Magnet and Steel before they lost momentum with that and issued another song?
They were milking it. There was, the Recurrent hit and all of that into the fall. I famously, I had the top song of the Columbia CBS group in September of that year. We had a meeting with a guy named Walter Yetnikoff, who was famously one of the bigwigs, the guy in charge of Epic and Columbia and all of the little labels that Columbia had. And he had this big suite at the top of the Century Plaza Hotel in LA and Century City. And me and my manager went up there, and we had to sort of pay homage to the great man and tell him what a wonderful guy he was and all of that. And say, why aren't you promoting the album more? And why don't we get Hot Summer Nights out? Because it's still, close to summer at least. Well, yeah, Walter, we don't. The famous quote that he came to me with was, "At Columbia, we break artists," and I was like, "Well, wait, what? Break can mean a couple of things."
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, Walter, that brings another famous quote to me from Jimi Hendrix, and that's never underestimate the power of stupid people in large numbers.
I love that. I love that.
I think it might be applicable in this instance.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
But if your song is on the chart for 6 months and it's still producing and people are still buying it, a lot of, again, going back to the younger generation, they don't understand that back in the day, you would issue a song, it would be on the chart, and they wouldn't put another song out until that song started going down. Nowadays, the same person could have 10 songs in the top 30. Again, back in the day, it averaged like every 2 or 3 months. Mm-hmm. Unless you get a song like Magnet and Steel that stays there for 6 months, and then you were, taking the songs and pulling them in and out.
Yeah, it's a different business these days, that's for sure. And I think part of it, the learning curve, was what was going on then with us and them. It was like, we break artists at Columbia. It took 3 albums for Boz Scaggs. It took, 3 albums for Billy Joel, and so don't worry, we're going to make it. Yeah, okay, well, meanwhile, let's put this other song out, all right? But, it didn't happen. And then the following years when the group Night covered it and made it the hit that it always had been. And then it became, okay, the French version, Vandelevla, there was the Swedish version, Flat Summer Dag, there was a German version, Japanese version. I even rewrote the lyrics for the Malibus. And then in 2009, it came back again when Eminem used it for his song "We Made You." So, it's...
Now, you wrote the song, though, right?
I wrote that song, yeah.
See, you still got success either way you looked at it. Not the way you wanted it, probably, to demonstrate it yourself, but... behind the scenes, you still got the success that you deserved.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I'm happy because his song, which was called an interpolation of my song, and of course, his was in the key of G minor, and that was the key of the Night version. My version was in D minor, so I knew that where they got that. So I wrote a song with Dr. Dre and Eminem and 2 other people who I don't even know. Anyway, so
did you ever think that maybe with the original re-release of that song, or it would actually have been the first release with that other band, a year after your target to release that, you ever think that the label might have already kind of had something like that in the pipeline? Because they do that a lot. They'll have something on a specific artist, but then they start bringing up these other artists behind you, and they'll slingshot them that way.
Well, you're right with that, because Columbia is famous for that, having signed Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and then Chicago, and then they had to sort of put one of those horn bands aside and make the other one more popular. But that hadn't occurred to me, and I don't know who distributed the Planet Records that Richard Perry's label was with. But yeah, at the time I was just so happy that all of this was finally happening. The fact of, okay, yeah, I'm going to make records, because when my college band broke up in '73, my mother sat me down and she was going, okay, well, what are you going to do to get serious with your life? Kind of talk.
You need to go to school, Walter.
Well, I graduated. I got an art degree from Georgetown University. But, that didn't go too far anyway. But, I said, I'm going to California to make a record, Mom. And, it was like, oh, okay. And at that time, I was never the lead singer in my bands. I was the guitarist and I was the songwriter, and I would sing harmonies and I would sing the oldies. But yeah, so that was the weird thing when I got the offer for the deal. When I did the Hoot Night, it was February of '76. Did the Hoot Night with a band called the Wheels, is what we called ourselves. Earl Shackelford and Dave Millard, a couple of guys from Claremont, which is where I was living, and a guy named Chris Darrow, who had been in Kaleidoscope and Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. He is really the gateway to all of the success that I had in the music business. When my band broke up, I told Chris, and he was the guy who wanted us to come out, but wanted our publishing. He said, "Yeah, well, now that your band broke up, come out and play with me." And I went there. 2 weeks after I got to California, we did a month-long tour of the UK. And during that time, I met the man who 2 years later would offer me my record, contract. So you never know where you're going to go with the choices that you make. And that's kind of the funny thing. I actually, during COVID, decided I would write my book, and I wrote it kind of with that in mind. It's like, well, how the hell did all this happen to me? It's like, someone who didn't really take music lessons from anybody. I just listened to the music I loved. And I had a friend named John Zambetti in high school who had that band, the Malibus, and said, well, if you get an electric guitar, you can join my band. And so I got an electric guitar and kind of went on a musical journey with John. And we went to college together. And then John went off and became a doctor. But he has never given up on the music. He, in fact, put out a solo album, I guess it was about 6 months ago now. So, yeah, John and we still do Malibu's gigs every now and then. But John has now become well, I think they're engaged, actually, but I don't know. She's a famous actress. He made it all the way to Malibu. And so
He got the girl. He got the girl.
Yeah, he's done well for himself. So anyway, it was just pleasing to me that I could succeed doing something that I just said, well, I'm just going to do this. I can write a song. Yes. I was inspired to write my first song by the song The Leader of the Pack by the Shangri-Las. And I heard that and I thought, well, I can write a song as silly as that. And I wrote a song called The Teenage Morgue, which, not the happiest of titles, but it was, you got to start somewhere. And that's where I began. And I've written over 2,000 songs at this point. And so, yeah, so to me, I love the fact that Magnet and Steel has touched so many people in so many ways. But I always want to say, well, if you like that one, you might listen to a few of these other ones. And that's what I'm hoping the Keith Urban cover of it does. It's like, oh, well, who is this songwriter? And let's hear some of his other songs,
Well, yes. I will tell you this, going to Keith for a second, that album got sent to me last week, and I want to tell you, I think the whole album is covers. Summer Breeze was amazing. He done several good ones, but I'm particularly proud of what he did for Magnet and Steel. That was the first one that I listened to, and I was like, I wonder if it's the same song from back in the 70s that Walter did. And right from the very beginning, I'm like, yep, it's the same one. And he did a great job on it.
Yeah, he did it right on.
You know how you've made it big? Back in the day, again, younger listeners are not going to know this. K-Tel Records. You remember K-Tel Records?
Oh, yeah, of course.
They had the commercial on, and they'd go like, sounds of the 70s. And you have these little cuts of Skinner and, Bread and all these folks. And there it is. You are a magnet. And I was like, there it is. That's how you know you made it when you're on a K-Tel record.
Yeah, that's for sure. It was amazing. Another mark of making it was I became an answer in crossword puzzles in newspapers.
Wait till you watch Jeopardy, and you're going to be on Jeopardy.
Yeah, I don't know if I've been on there or not, but yeah, my grandmother used to do the Sunday New York Times crossword puzzle every week, and so when I got to be an answer in the Sunday New York Times crossword puzzle, I figured, well, how much bigger can I get?
You've made it, man. You have
You
made it.
officially arrived, baby. You have arrived. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well,
Absolutely. I've got like a collection of the entire 1970s from they first, I think it was July 1st, 1970 is when Casey Kasem started his countdown. So I've got every episode from the first to the last of 1970s. I'm going to have to go back there somewhere in the middle of June, July of 1978 and see some of the stories he had to say about you.
well, yeah. In fact, I was on a vacation after being on the road for about 6 months in '78. I got to go to Hawaii and lay on the beach in Maui, and I had a little transistor that I was listening to Casey Kasem do his countdown, and yeah, that was pretty much a pinnacle. Listening to Casey talk about me while I'm laying there on the beach in Maui.
And nobody knows who you are, and you're just enjoying the story. You kind of, for lack of a better term, you're gloating. This is me.
you know,
Absolutely. You have every reason to be proud of that.
It was a victory lap, and that has translated into when I go to Kroger. And
Let's speed forward 50 years to Kroger now.
The music is on, and Magnet comes on, and I'm walking around. People are singing along, usually getting the lyrics wrong. But I want to go up to them and go, no, man, don't. That's
And they don't know who you are.
with you,
And
I'm
that's the
not
beauty.
God. Yeah. Well, actually, some of the people know because the other side of my rock idol existence is when I'm not doing music, I'm a substitute teacher in a high school here in Franklin. And I've been
Awesome.
doing that for about 30 years now.
Teaching music?
Teaching whatever they tell me.
Oh, that's right. A
As
substitute.
a
Yeah.
substitute, you crowd control more than anything.
Full disclosure, though, it's not Franklin High School is not like anywhere USA. So you've got in Franklin, you're going to see everybody in the music industry crisscrossing. So there, I mean,
Yeah.
everybody. So Franklin, Leapers Fork, Brentwood, Belmead, Green Hills, they're all they're gonna recognize each other. If you're a pro, you know who the other pros are, and so that's how that's
This is
gonna
true.
work.
You got that right. Actually, though, full disclosure, I only substitute at Centennial High School for the last 25 years. And so Centennial and Franklin High School are rivals. So, yeah, my son went to Franklin, though. Um, and I had the grandson of one of Elvis's background singers in my class once. I played bass on Kelsey Ballerini's demos.
Nice.
Kelsey is now some kind of huge star selling toothpaste on TV and shit, So yeah, it's pretty crazy. The places that you go with the music, but yeah, I feel like being this kind of under the radar artist is pretty good for me. I look back in '78, and in September of '78, when I was riding high, I did a tour for 2 weeks with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And
Nice.
at this point, Petty hadn't had the singles success yet. He had the albums, but he hadn't had a breakthrough single. So we swapped every night. We would switch. I would open for him one night, then he'd open for me the next night, and we went back and forth like that for 2 weeks. And and that I look at like, wow, this was a watershed moment in my career and my life. And how did it all go wrong after that? And I can't say that it all went wrong because here we are talking.
That's what I was saying. We're still here talking about the significance of that song. I mean, you're going to go to Kroger, you're going to hear your song in the store. I mean, so I'm being nosy, and I don't care how much, but you still get royalties like when it plays at Kroger?
Yeah, sure.
So no matter where they play that song, it winds up paying you something.
That's the it's supposed to anyway. Yeah.
He says it's supposed to anyway.
Well, I did a gig with Henry Gross. Shannon. That song Shannon. He's a friend of mine, and he was going. That ASCAP pays you when you play it live. You know that you should talk to them about that. And I was like, whoa, that's interesting. I hadn't looked into that.
They
So
do. They do. ASCAP and BMI both are doing that. They're. I don't know how long they've been supposed to do it, but I know they're starting to actually do it.
yeah, you just have to sign up for it and give them the concert dates and the things.
So if
'Cause that's the
Rhino
thing.
goes out and plays Magnet and Steel, they're supposed to pay you for that as well?
Well, yeah, technically. And the way that comes is the venues normally have to pay ASCAP or BMI a lump for using the music, and then you got to let them know that your song was in there.
This is what's in the set list and all
Yeah.
that.
And so, but yeah, these gigs with Ambrosia have been to pretty good audiences. It's really a great show because it's like hit after hit after hit. Ambrosia had 4 or 5 really big songs, and so did John Ford. He and Dan had at least 2 or 3 that were major.
I know two of them. Even the nights are longer, or something. And what is the other one? Really want to see you tonight?
Yeah. So
Those are his two.
yeah,
I would say, Walter, I would say you said something a couple times and it hits me crazy. I think I know how you mean it, but you keep talking about, how you thought something went wrong. You had a bigger purpose than just being the one person on the one stage. You had a much bigger purpose. And where you're at now, what's more important, being the king or the king maker? And once you become a king maker, you can make more than just one king at a time, and that's the power of what you're doing to me, because I'm in the middle right now. Say a prayer for me. I'm in the middle right now of doing a lot of artist development with several indie artists. I'm working with them, trying to explain and guide them through the process. Just because you've been doing something 8 or 10 years doesn't make you an artist. That means you're a singer that's been doing something 8 or 10 years or whatever. And the talent levels are different ones, or different degrees with different individual. And so for me, I'm trying to teach them about the marketing, the whole package, the whole machine. And you did this through compositions and some other things that continue to find the songs that you created. It wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been for Walter Egan. And it's continuing. That's the ripple and tsunami. It's continuing right now. Keith Urban, he was touched. Now he's touching other people, but it all comes from you.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that so much. And it sounds like you're doing a good job there with what you're doing. I've had kind of that experience.
I was going to come stay on your couch if they didn't shape up there pretty quick. I'm finna run to Walt's house, y'all.
Yeah, so, come on in.
Come on.
No problem. I'll tell my dog to get off there.
When the summer comes, then the summer